3, 2, 1, begin. Hello, I'm David Burton, a data science student at Flatiron, and this is a presentation of my Module 3 classification project. I chose to work on a Kickstarter dataset which I found on Kaggle. My project focused on creating a model to predict whether a Kickstarter campaign would be successful or not. I chose this specific project because I just finished going through a small business incubator called Smart City Works. During that 4-month process, I attended daily lectures and things such as structuring my company and, more importantly, securing funding. Everything was about securing funding from angel investors. Everything was about the pitch, modifying the pitch, having an elevator pitch on hand and ready to go. And when I was finally able to meet with those angel investors, wowing them enough that they will give my company money for equity. The big thing that was drilled into me is they are buying me. They're not buying the product. So you need to make a great impression because there are only going to be a few investors that have enough capital to put into your company. Make it work. Make a good impression, get the money from them. The thing about Kickstarter is it has a very different ideology. Kickstarter is all about crowdfunding. So in crowdfunding, that is where people can fundraise for a project, or in some cases a cause, and raise money for this product or cause, and they expect to get something back. They don't want a piece of the company, they want a beta prototype, a product that you're selling. And this is a really wonderful system, because the thing that I hated the most about this incubator was giving away pieces of my company. I didn't really care about giving away capital. I cared about having to give people board seats or more say in the company because they were going to provide a certain amount of revenue or money for the project to succeed. And each time I got money from them, I essentially lost more of my company. It was less mine. As an example, I met with the governor of Virginia, and there were a ton of us around, and he spent the entire time with me. He loved my project. He wanted to meet with me and my partner and figure out how to make it work. He was really excited. Just as a brief overview, the project that I was trying to raise money for, the company that I was working on, was an invention that me and my brother came up with. It determines how much lead was in your water and if you should be alarmed about that. Now, it's a cool product. It just took like several cents to make. It's not my favorite invention that I've ever had, so there's that. But when we met with Terry, we thought we had it made. We're like, yes, this project's going to make it off the ground. It's going to go somewhere. I'm not going to have to schlep out to this incubator every day and that 2-hour train ride there, 2 hours back. It was a nightmare. But when I met with him, it was all done. It was all set. And then, of course, elections happen, and he's no longer the governor. And the new governor doesn't know my name, doesn't know I exist. I don't even know how to go about setting up a meeting with the guy. On the other hand, you have Kickstarter. Kickstarter is crowdsourcing at its best. It's small contributions, lots of backers. They're not asking for a vote in your company. They don't want a say in where your company is going to go, where it's going to head. They just want a product. And when you give them that product, you all of a sudden have beta testers, which is a wonderful thing. You're able to create basically a minimal viable product and give it out to countless people. And not only are you not having to just give it out, they're paying you money to create it. And that's cool because the most difficult thing during the process I went through was after I had created that minimal viable product, I couldn't afford to make enough of those products to get them out to people's hands to test it. I needed those beta testers, but I was a public school teacher at the time, and a lot of the money that I was making was going towards things like school supplies for the kids, and I couldn't really justify making a water bottle over giving a kid a pencil to use on his test. And the Kickstarter dataset I worked with had some issues, first of all. The first time I ran through it, I thought that I was a genius, that I just aced this whole classification thing. I just spent about an hour, and then now I can predict with 99% accuracy or more, greater, whether a project is going to be successful or fail. In reality, I needed to have dropped some of the features that wouldn't have been present at the onset of a campaign, such as the number of backers and the amount pledged, which I then used to feature engineer the percentage pledged. I had to get rid of those because it's not very useful to make a model that has the answer in the training data already. So I got rid of those features, and I was left with 5 features. I was left with the launch time when the project began, the deadline date when the project was ending, and all projects that are on Kickstarter, they end at midnight. I needed to know the goal. I got the goal with the data set, the category, and the subcategory. So 5 features. And then the one target variable, state or outcome, is what I wanted to predict. I was able to work it so that I got about 63% accuracy. Not something you would want to place some money on. However, the useful information that I found during this entire process was not the classification itself. It's which features tend to produce the outcomes that we're looking for. What day of the week should my campaign begin to be more likely to succeed? The models themselves are great for if a project's already begun. It's a little bit better than just flipping a coin to figure out if it's going to be successful or failed. It's a 63% chance I'll get it right. Now, let's move on. The main features of the project are publishing, film and video, music, food. Publishing, again, why is this model? This is my wrong model. All right, this is the right one. This is a ranking of the features by the importance. So I took those initial 5 features, and luckily 2 of them were daytime features, from which I was able to extrapolate the day that they began, the hour, and make those into their own individual things. And then not only that, combine the 2 and derive the campaign length. How long did the project stay on? I also cleaned up the data set a little bit because about 35% of the projects are successful in the entire 330,000 instances that I used. I needed a more balanced data set, so I eliminated the lame duck ones, the ones that had existed for more than a week and hadn't gotten a single pledged dollar or a single backer to them. I figured, who is making a Kickstarter campaign and doesn't have a single person to donate towards it? Every person I know that has begun one of these things, they've already been on social media. They let you know when the project's going to kick off. And everybody is on standby. Your friends, your family, your grandmother who gives you that $5 every year as a birthday card, she's standing by ready to put that $5 into the Kickstarter campaign. So those ones that existed for an entire week and hadn't gotten a single backers, they're the lame ducks, so I eliminated those. And this, along with the ones that received over 300% funding, those are the ones that more than likely it's somebody, and this is just a guess, and it doesn't really matter why these ones reached over 300%, but I'm just guessing that they knew it was going to succeed before they even began. They already had the backers, or they had enough capital going into it to have something successful happen. And or maybe they've had several campaigns and they're veterans and they know exactly what to do. I just wanted the normal campaigns, the ones that are raising some money but not astronomical amounts. So let's keep it under 300%, and at least some money is going in after 7 days. The really cool thing that I was able to do with this project, because it was my first classification project, I wanted to try out all the different models. And I wasn't able to try out all of them. There's so many, but I was able to try out a lot of them with scikit-learn. And then I took all those different models and I figured out the feature importance averaged in the mean for each model. What I found through this is that while some things like the goal are extremely important for one model, they're only really important for regression models. And for most of the other models I was using, they barely used the goal. But there's some things like the deadline year or the launch year that are crucial, that almost all the models use them. By doing this, I was able to eliminate some of the features that I didn't want to be a part of my models. And when I removed those, I removed the overfitting that was occurring by having too many similar features in a model. So this was my starting point before I began tuning the machine, tuning the model, or messing with the features some more. I saw that my logistic regression was at 57%. That's kind of the same as flipping a coin. You're going to get at least 50% accuracy with that. Random forest, which is an ensemble in itself, it was only reaching 51%. But naive Bayes, 58%. Linear discrimination analysis, 63%. K-nearest neighbors, 54%. Well, you can read the slide. I wanted to improve upon these. My spot check also wasn't entirely stable. I ran it through one pass to see what would happen. I limited it to this amount because I was dealing with a data set with over 300,000 instances, but primarily because my machine that I was using couldn't handle more. If I was to redo this, I would probably use something like AWS to run it rather than my local machine, and that would improve the speed of getting through these models, which means that I could tune them quicker. When I was finished with everything, when it was all said and done, I was able to improve upon these three primary models: logistic regression, random forest, and naive Bayes, and create an ensemble to perform at a much higher rate. And I also just wanted to make an ensemble because this being my first classification project, I wasn't sure how to do that 100% besides the exercises that I went through, and I wanted to do it with my own data. What I found is not only does it take forever to run, but if you aren't starting with the best data, it's not going to improve it that much. I was able to get better than just flipping the coin, but if I had more time to go back to, I would seek out better features. I would seek out better data. I would use NLP to figure out if the descriptions or the names of the projects were significant. But being that as it is, this is what we're left with. When I made the voting classifier, I started by doing it voting equals hard. I wasn't really sure what that meant. It just, at the time. But I needed a model that was stable. I wanted to know that the accuracy was going to be the same each time I put it through. And I was able to achieve this by using an ensemble. However, when I was using the hard voting, it was so strict and my features were kind of not the best, so the scores were not as high as I would have liked. But at least I know that with 60% accuracy, it's going to be a failure or it's going to be successful. When I turned it into more random or soft voting, I was able to use k-nearest neighbors, random forest, and logistic regression in order to achieve 62% F1 scores for both success and failure. This may not seem like a big improvement from the initial spot check. However, each time I ran an instance through this new model, I was able to get the same scores. Whereas before it was kind of jumping up from like 40% to 60%, back down to 30%. It was just all over the place. This is a more stable model that is able to produce the same results each time. And thank you for listening. I think for the next steps, I would like to draw out which features are the most significant and what you should do in order to be the most successful in your campaign. I actually have several plotly graphs that I'm not sure how to put into the slideshow since I'm using PowerPoint. But for more information, you can check my blog out on this. Have a great day and thank you.